right? Yeah. It was in this very building. And so my purpose today is to inspire you and to try to convince you in your preaching and your teaching and your writing to tether the faith of the next generation and maybe some of this generation, to tether the faith, and that's the phrase I want you to hang on to tether the faith of this generation and the next to the event of the resurrection rather than the inspiration, infallibility, or the authority of the Bible. Oh, good, no lightning. So let me say that one more time. We'll talk about this for a few minutes, and you can talk bad about me after I leave. You have permission to do that. My intention and my heart's desire, because I think you're uniquely qualified to do this, is to begin from now on, for the rest of our lives, in our preaching and our teaching and our writing, to tether the faith of this next generation to the event of the resurrection rather than the authority and the inspiration, infallibility, or even the inerrancy of the Bible, where it should have been tethered all along and where the Apostle Peter and the Apostle John tethered theirs. Now, let me tell you why I think this is a big deal. About 9 years ago, I feel like I have everybody's undivided attention. Did you see how I did that there? Yeah, okay. So about 9 years ago, I was sitting at home and I'm watching a YouTube video of Sam Harris. Some of you know who Sam Harris is, famous atheist, neuroscientist. And I'm listening to this, I'm watching this video, somebody told me to watch, and he's at a university setting and he is just completely dismantling the Bible. And the crowd is cheering. I mean, every time he takes a shot at the Bible, they just cheer. And he's doing all the normal stuff that skeptics have done forever. And as I was watching, something dawned on me that I'd never thought about before that has rocked my world and changed the way I preach and teach. I made the change almost immediately. It dawned on me that Sam Harris shared an assumption with everybody in the room that was a skeptic or an atheist or an agnostic. And the assumption that he shared with them, he also shared with most Christians, although most Christians haven't thought about it, and the Christians in the room listening to him and Christians everywhere. It's an assumption that I was raised on, and it's an assumption that most of you were raised on. In fact, when I state this the assumption, part of your brain will go, well, that can't be true, and part of you will feel nervous that I'm saying it's not true. And the assumption is simply this, that the Bible is the foundation of the Christian faith, and that as the Bible goes, so goes Christianity. That was the assumption he leveraged all of his skepticism off of, and it's an assumption that most of the people in most of our churches hold to, even though they've never thought about it because no one's ever said it like that. The assumption being that as the Bible goes, so goes the Christian faith. So as Sam Harris dismantles the Bible and all confidence in the Bible, he's dismantling Christianity in his mind and in the minds of the people in the audience and in the minds and the hearts of people and students and high school students and college students everywhere. And when I say the Bible, I'm talking about what if you went to a bookstore and said, I want to see a Bible, what they would bring you. You know, Old Testament, New Testament, chaptered, verse, mapped, and wrapped. Okay, like the Bible, the whole thing. So just to be clear. So after I watched this, I thought, this is terrible, and someone needs to do something, and I looked around, and it was just me. So I thought, this is like a big deal, because I was raised, most Christians were raised, and again, an assumption is a dangerous thing, especially when it goes underneath the surface. Many of you make decisions, we all do, based on assumptions that we don't even know about, and as soon as somebody surfaces the assumption, you think, oh, that's not true, and suddenly you make different kinds of decisions. So I read his book, Into Faith, and as hopefully you know, Richard Dawkins and Daniel Dennett and late Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, and mainly those four guys, they responded to 9/11 with this, by publishing books against religion, all religion, not just Christianity. And so Christians came back at Sam Harris so strong after he published Into Faith, he published another little book called Letter to a Christian Nation. And I'm just curious, how many of you have read Sam Harris's book, Letter to a Christian Nation? Okay, 2. You should all read that book. And if your faith survives, it may not. You may become an atheist after you read it, just warning you. It's a little tiny book written to Christians. If your faith survives, then I want you to ask yourself this question. Would the faith of the high school students in my church survive this book? Would the faith of the college freshmen that are leaving my church survive this book? Would the average faith of the average person in our church survive this book? Because he does what skeptics have done forever. He goes after the Bible. Because as the Bible goes, so goes our faith. And that just isn't true. And the reason I know it isn't true is because of something I learned in this building. This is why I think you are uniquely qualified and educated to address this. And so in Letter to a Christian Nation, he says, you believe the Bible is because he writes this book to Christians. You believe the Bible is the most profound book ever written? Yes. And its contents have stood the test of time so well that it must have been divinely inspired? Yes, sir. That's what we believe, The idea that the Bible is a perfect guide to morality is simply astounding given the contents of the book. Goes on and on and on. If the Bible is an ordinary book, And Christ, an ordinary man, the basic doctrine of Christianity is false. And so he does what skeptics have done for generations. He ties that doesn't use the word inerrancy, but the infallibility or the credibility of the Bible to the Christian faith. And as the Christian faith goes, as the Bible goes, so goes Christian faith. I mean, if something in the Bible isn't true, this is simple. If something in the Bible isn't true, then the Bible isn't true. If something in the Bible isn't true, you can't say the Bible's true. And if the Bible isn't true in the minds of just about everybody, goodbye Christianity. That has to change. And your generation of church leaders needs to change it. The assumption, this is not a new assumption. What Sam does is he does what skeptics for generations have done. He invites the faith, he invites Christians, he invites the world into a battleground of their choosing. And the battleground of their choosing is the integrity of the Bible. So he baits us, for generations, skeptics have done this. He baits us into a conversation on whether or not we can defend the entire Bible. Because in his mind, in the minds of so many people, Christianity hangs in the balance. It doesn't, and you know that. And the thing that makes this so compelling, and the reason we have to do something, I'm absolutely convinced, is because this generation of skeptics has something previous generations did not have. An all-access pass to every single person in your church 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They have an all-access pass to every car, every phone, every iPad, every computer, every middle school student, every high school student, every college student, every wandering husband, every wandering mother. And once upon a time, you had to buy a ticket and go to a debate to hear somebody like him talk. Obviously, no more. And to make it worse, now with the click of your fingers, everybody in your church can find out, wait for it, what else is in the Bible. Now a person can discover what's in the Bible without ever owning one, picking one up, even knowing what one looks like. And I know this isn't new information, so it's not like, Andy, how old is this guy? No, of course, I know you know this, but I just want this to settle in on you. That every single student, every single person in your church can find out what else is in the Bible. And what do I mean by what else? All the parts you don't preach and teach about and the parts you won't preach and teach about because you can't find any application there. You're never going to get there. And if you go verse by verse through the Bible, you'll never make it to Jesus. It's like, where's Jesus? We'll get there. 4 years from now, we'll get there. So anyway, the point being, this assumption is what I want to focus your attention on. This assumption is absolutely false. And once you surface it and look at it, it's clearly false. But I'm telling you, it hovers in the conscience and the thinking of just about every single Christian, and skeptics have been placing, teeing off of that for generations. Once upon a time, who cares? Who's going to read a 300-page book by an atheist? Basically nobody. But those once upon a time days are over. And how has the church responded? Skinny jeans and moving lights. I mean, come on. We got them, right? I mean, have you seen our light show? I mean, have you heard our band? Have you seen Hillsong's pretty good. Have you heard our music? I mean, have you seen our preacher? He's so cool. I've got, strategically placed tattoo. I mean, the world's coming to Christ now. I mean, we got it going on, right? We've done nothing. The church has not adjusted at all. We still preach and teach as if the Bible says it, that settles it. And if the Bible says it, that settles it for most of us. Maybe for everybody in this room. But that is an assumption we not only have to abandon it, we have to decide where we're going to place our faith and where the fertile soil of ministry. And I'm telling you, it's not